Today's question is, well, it's really an age-old question. And by that I mean people have been asking it since Sigmund Freud, perhaps from before that. How do I train people? How do I train people?
Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast. 5-minute videos, 5 days a week.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. There's a couple of ways you can look at that. So you could be asking the question that as you're growing as a leader, what is the proper way or what is the practice or how does it come about that you train people? And if that's the way you're asking the question, then I would have to be honest and say there are really two ways people are trained. Now, there are a lot of different methodologies, a lot of different practices, if you will, a lot of different systems, processes for training people. Some are long processes, some are multiple steps in a process. Some have to do with educational higher learning, and some have to do with the way adults learn versus the way kids learn. Some have to do with gamification. Those are all methods of training, but really there are only two ways that people are trained. Intentionally and unintentionally. That's it. It's just those two. They're either trained intentionally or they're trained unintentionally. Let me take that back to a more simplified notion. J Maxwell said it well in his 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership when he said, we call it the law of the picture. People do what people see. So just take a moment for this season, for today, for June 1st of 2020. And if you're watching this video weeks, days, months, years, decades later, go back and look at the news for June 1st of 2020 and see what's going on in our nation. Over the last 90 days, we've had probably the most disruptive 90 days in the history of our country. And it hasn't all been about the same thing. But there's been a lot of similar results. Because people do what people see. And the behavior and the actions and the activity of our political leaders, of our civic leaders, of our business leaders, of our local leaders, of our family leaders, it's being modeled over and over and over again. The drive for money, the selfishness, the me too, the me first. There's a lot of what we see in our society right now that looks more like a veritable king of the hill. I don't know if you remember that game. When I was a kid, we would find a mound of dirt and we would play king of the hill. And what it meant was someone would climb to the top of the hill and then fight for all they were worth to defend that spot. Now, depending on the age of the kids that were playing the game and the likeliness of someone getting hurt, it would kind of weed out who the players were. If it was a bunch of little kids, one or two big kids would get up there and just throw everybody off and then claim king of the hill and then get bored because there was no competition and they would leave. And then the little kids would model exactly that. The strongest of the little ones would rise to the top by throwing everybody aside until they were the last one. See, the challenge with that game is that mentality that I can win and that I will win at everybody else's cost, it's not only contagious, but it causes something in us to rise up and say, I want to be the king of the hill. And I'll tear the hill down if I have to. If I can't be the king of the hill, if I can't be on the top, if I can't have all the marbles, if I can't win the game and be the only winner, if I can't be the only winner, there'll be no winners. And maybe you've encountered people like that in your life as a kid or even as an adult, as a business owner, as a leader, that would literally say, I'm going to take all my toys and go home. If I can't do it my way, if I can't play my way, if I can't win my way, then nobody gets to play. That kind of behavior, that kind of self-centered behavior, that kind of vitriolic, hate-filled behavior, it's contagious. And it's learned generation after generation after generation. Right? Just look back over the history of humanity at tyrannical kings, at global leaders who wanted to wipe out entire population bases, genocide of types of humans because of their race or their ethnic origin or their skin color or their belief system. It's a pretty common thing, believe it or not, but the truth remains, people do what people see. There's only two ways to learn. There's only two ways to train other people. And those two ways are intentionally and unintentionally. And if you're not paying close attention to the way that you're behaving and speaking and doing and believing, then you are training people. And if you are intentional and paying close attention to what you do and what you say and what you believe, you're also training people. The question is, which one's going to have better results? And which one's going to suffer from unintended consequences in the long term? That's a question you'll have to deal with as a leader yourself when you ask yourself at the end of your days, what am I responsible for? Have I left a strong legacy? Did I train people in the right way? In the way they should go? Or did I just do what was best for me, and whoever falls off the hill as I become king, it's not my problem? As a leader, as a community influencer, you should be asking that question every day. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.